So Lerone Murphy once again demonstrated ridiculous fight IQ in his first round knockout against Aaron Pico. There were three distinct moments in this fight where Lerone Murphy had clearly figured out Aaron Pico. There was a short elbow early on, that knee through the middle, and of course the spinning elbow to close the show. So in today's video, I'm going to break down exactly how Aaron Pico fell into Lerone Murphy's trap, a couple of really bad habits from Pico that cost him this fight, and one thing that Lerone Murphy did, absolute genius, an adjustment that allowed him to get that spectacular finish. Hello guys and welcome back to Alex on MMA. I just want to quickly say thank you for all the kind words on that Hamzat Chimaev video. I do want this channel to be a place where we can discuss and debate MMA. I'm already seeing a few regular commenters in the comment section, so if you haven't already, please do subscribe to the channel. But anyway, let's get into Lerone Murphy against Aaron Pico. So this matchup, as I said before, it really did intrigue me. I don't want to say it was brains versus brawn, but I think heading into this one, we knew that Lerone Murphy had to be extremely intelligent to avoid getting wrecked by Aaron Pico. We know how powerful this guy is, but at the same time, he does make mistakes, and it was so important for Lerone Murphy to be on his A game and capitalise on these. And it's not as though we hadn't seen Lerone Murphy dealing with power punches before. I know that Josh Emmett is a fighter very much on the decline, but when he fought Lerone Murphy, Murphy barely allowed him to land a glove on him in that fight. But anyway, in this fight, Lerone Murphy was fighting a much fresher fighter, someone with a lot of hype behind his name. So I think before we take a look at what Murphy did well, what did Aaron Pico want? What was he aiming for in this fight? And what Aaron Pico wants is generally pretty straightforward. He wants to back you up against the fence to unload his really heavy hooks to the body, hooks upstairs, and get you out of there. Alternatively, if your back is up against the fence, he can also use his wrestling. So Lerone Murphy knew throughout this fight that movement and range would be so essential. And in an ideal world, you could prevent Pico from doing his best work by constantly moving, a lot of lateral movement, and then picking off your shots. But I think it's important to remember that Aaron Pico is a good fighter. Despite the first round finish that we saw at this weekend, Pico's very good at pressuring forward with strikes, with that wrestling threat. So it was inevitable that at some points your back would be against the fence. So Lerone Murphy needed to find answers to this. Counters for when Aaron Pico is moving forward and Murphy's back is against the fence, and he did exactly this. And one of the reasons why I say that Lerone Murphy has such genius fight IQ is because of the adjustments that he makes during the fight. So this is within 10 seconds. I feel like Murphy was trying to test the theory of getting into a firefight with Aaron Pico. And as you can see here, Pico does a really nice job parrying that jab with his right hand. Let's keep it playing forward. Pico throws a left hook of his own, which is his favourite weapon, and follows it up with a right hand, which just clips Lerone Murphy on the top of the head. Let's keep it playing. But Murphy is a very talented striker himself, so he returns fire with the right hand, which kind of brushes off Pico's shoulder, but he takes himself off his feet. It was a bit of a wild exchange, and Lerone Murphy isn't the most comfortable in these situations. And Murphy, with a very solid game plan, wanted to find out what would happen if he wasn't forced backwards, test the waters in those first 10 seconds. However, he was quick to realise that against a power punch like Aaron Pico, if you're just standing in the pocket there, not moving backwards, not moving sideways, it's probably not going to end well for you. And so with less than a minute gone in the fight, Lerone Murphy decides that movement is his best bet in this fight, and even if he has to fight with his back against the fence, he's got a few weapons up his sleeve to deal with this. And this is because Aaron Pico leaves himself so open when he's on the offense. As you can see here, I wanted to start with this really nice left hook to the body that Pico lands. Look, he puts everything into this. He's really leaping into it. And this is one of the problems that I do have with Aaron Pico's fighting style, is that he fights as though his opponents are already hurt. This is a really important point. This is 1 minute into the fight. Lerone Murphy isn't hurt at this point. He's covering himself up. But Aaron Pico's just absolutely winging these punches in. Pico gets a lot of praise for his boxing, but you know how boxers fight. Before they have their opponents hurt, they'll traditionally be very conscious about their guard. Even if they're firing shots to the body, they'll keep themselves tucked in to avoid counters that are coming their way. But here, look how open Aaron Pico is. We're just going to keep this playing forward because this is the first real shot of any significance that Lerone Murphy got off. I'm going to keep it playing forward. So he has his back against the fence, and Aaron Pico once again winds up his hand all the way back here. He's winding up for another big shot to the body, which he lands. Don't get me wrong, these are punishing shots. But as he leaves himself open, you can see Lerone Murphy setting this short elbow up, which really clips Aaron Pico and very quickly turns him into a wrestler. And look, this is again demonstrating very good fight IQ on the part of Murphy, because he knows that a short elbow has a lot less distance to travel than one of Aaron Pico's winding left hooks. And okay, at this point of the video, you might be thinking, Lerone Murphy, hardly a genius, he just realised that Aaron Pico winds up his shots and that a short elbow would do the job in close range. But I want you to take note of the end of that sequence. When Aaron Pico went for that shot against the fence, he placed his head on the right side of Lerone Murphy's body. Lerone Murphy's left side, sorry, Aaron Pico's right side. And this is another genius thing that Lerone Murphy picked up on this fight, and it actually led him to winning this fight. Every single time in this fight that Aaron Pico went for a takedown, he shifted his head all the way over to the right. This is the kind of detail that can make all the difference in a fight. It's a bad habit on the part of Aaron Pico because it means that he's predictable. As we're about to see in the next sequence, this allowed Lerone Murphy to time a knee beautifully through the middle and land the most damaging shot of the fight until the finish. And it was all because Lerone Murphy was picking up on patterns during the fight. Every time Aaron Pico closed the distance and went for a wrestling attempt, he would put his head on the right-hand side. And just two things before we go into this clip. Firstly, I don't want to hear it that because Lerone Murphy's British and I'm British, I'm being overly biased here. I did think that Aaron Pico did some great work. He's a very strong fighter, a very aggressive fighter, a fantastic fighter in the first round. And he did some great work. He got some nice takedowns. But that predictability against a fighter with such a great fight IQ like Lerone Murphy, it just got him unstuck here. So again, Aaron Pico forcing Murphy back against the fence with his striking, a recurrent theme in this fight. And this is just genius by Lerone Murphy, because on this occasion, Aaron Pico opens himself up with a left hook again. His guard is just nowhere to be seen. His right hand's over there, his left hand's here. However, his head is dipping to the right. So whether he was going for a takedown here, or as you can see, a left hook where he dips his head off to the right, Lerone Murphy catches him with a beautiful knee, fantastically timed. I think it landed on his chest, on his neck area, but even so, if he had gone for a takedown there, that would have landed sweetly on the button. And again, turns Pico into a wrestler with his head on the left-hand side of Lerone Murphy's body. Another pattern that he's picking up on. So before we do take a look at the finish, let's just appreciate the adjustments that Lerone Murphy's made throughout this fight and give some credit to his fight IQ. He realised within the first 10 seconds of the fight that he's just not going to exchange with this guy. Pico's such a powerful puncher. He needs to make sure that he was constantly moving, and when his back was against the fence, he had the counters to deal with a wild striker like Pico. And on top of that, picking up on Pico's habit of shooting his head to the right-hand side when he goes for takedowns. When I saw the finish in real time when I was watching it on Saturday night, I asked the question, how the hell did Murphy know that Pico was going to be there? But it's all the things that he learnt in that first round that led to this moment. So let's take a look. And one question that you do have to ask, and it reverts back to the brains versus brawn narrative at the start of this video, is how much is the result of this fight down to Murphy's superior fight IQ or Aaron Pico's lack of fight IQ? Because as you can see in this moment, which is the finishing sequence, Aaron Pico takes this step across, which is, we saw very similar in TJ Dillashaw. He'd do this switch stepping, moving in to end up his left hand being his power punch. But in this instance, he just leaves himself completely square. It's a really bad footwork position to be in. And you can see Lerone Murphy's hips ready to go here. Let's keep it playing forward. And Aaron Pico's head is on the right-hand side. Not saying he was going for a takedown there, but it looks as though it probably was. And it's really far over on the right-hand side, because when you actually see where the connection happened, it's not as if Lerone Murphy's elbow was fully extended. He hadn't gone all the way around. He caught Aaron Pico moving in, moving to that right-hand side. And that probably made it even more devastating. And just finishing the clip here, you can see that Aaron Pico hit his head badly on the ground there and absolutely iced. Lerone Murphy follows up with a super unnecessary ground and pound at the end, but he gets the job done. I always think that when you see a first round knockout, it's easy to get carried away by the finish itself and not all the steps that led up to that finish. So hopefully in this video, you have seen how much of a genius Lerone Murphy is when it comes to making these mid-fight adjustments, picking up on habits of his opponent. And personally, I cannot wait now to see him fighting Volkanovski. But before we talk about what's next for Lerone Murphy, I want to speak a bit about Aaron Pico and what's next for him. Well, obviously, he does need to take some time out. And look, we're not going to see Aaron Pico back in the octagon until 2026, and I've got no problem with that. It was a really bad knockout. He needs to take time off, time away from sparring, time away from training, make sure that he recovers and works on many bad habits that he still has. He's definitely a much better fighter than the fighter who went 4-3 very early on in his career, but he's still massively winding up his shots. Like I said, he fights as though his opponent is hurt already, and this leaves him really vulnerable, clearly leaves him very vulnerable. So I just think he needs to tighten everything up. It's so tempting, it must be so tempting, I'm not speaking from experience, but it must be so tempting when you've got that much power just to let your shots go, because you can knock out a fighter at any given moment. But against a fighter who is as skillful as Lerone Murphy, that's just not going to happen 99% of the time. He clearly needs to be a lot more defensively responsible, keeping his hands up, keeping his guard tight, not allowing himself to take unnecessary damage, because it will shorten his career. Let's face it, there's many bad knockouts on his resume yet. If his chin hasn't completely gone, it definitely will do soon if he keeps fighting like this. And talking about Lerone Murphy, the fight against Volkanovski, that's such an intriguing matchup. Lerone Murphy doesn't seem to have any clear weaknesses. He's such a well-rounded fighter, his defensive grappling's really solid. But again, Volkanovski's the guy who did laps of that featherweight division once upon a time, so I think it's going to be a fantastic matchup. And I definitely will be doing a pre-fight preview to that one as well. But anyway, guys, hope you've enjoyed this video. I think I'm doing an Aljamain Sterling against Brian Ortega breakdown in a couple of days, previewing that fight, so make sure you subscribe to the channel to keep abreast with that. And do drop a comment below. What do you think's next for Aaron Pico? What did you make of his performance until the finish? And Lerone Murphy, how impressed were you with his game plan and his execution? Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.